There is a lost commodity in just talking to people. And today, we are often so inundated by ourselves, following the forward push of the train of our minds, that we don't simply just live, engage. And that is the greatest wealth that we'll ever have in the present moment, uh, as well as any other. Being able to immerse ourselves, to be lost in the moment, engaging, smiling, laughing, that is life. Those are the moments of joy. That is what happiness looks like and feels like. It's not this projected, ambiguous thing decades in the future, and it's not some moments that no longer exist that were in the past. Happiness is a facet, a moment of the present where you are no longer, so confused or constricted by, your thoughts, and you are simply existing. You're simply being yourself. You're simply invoking yourself before you have a second to start thinking and worrying about a bunch of stuff. And we need that today. For example, as I was eating breakfast, having a morning coffee at the cafe, reading, there was a man who'd come in and sat in front of me at the next table, and he was rather loud, making his presence very obvious, sort of a ruckus to him. And in my, thoughts, I thought he was, perhaps, ignorant of other people's privacy and, maybe arrogant, whatever, right? Just these, just thoughts, just happening already, right? Judgments, being judgmental for no reason. Um, and then someone else, a young woman, came, sat down at another table, and started doing some work for herself privately. And everyone's quiet. Everyone's doing their own thing. I'm reading. He's working on his laptop. She's working on her laptop. No one's interacting with each other, right? But suddenly, according to them, the internet wasn't working in the cafe. And so he turns over his shoulder and he asks if the internet is down. If we're experiencing the same difficulty as him, and he persists further, not only to asking me, as I didn't really answer, I wasn't really using it, I was reading, defers to asking her, and a conversation begins. And he begins interacting, he begins asking questions, he begins wanting to know things. Who can really know the inner workings of someone, why they would want to do this, right? But it starts to not matter, right? If you're a genuine person and you genuinely want to participate in conversation, that's really the only thing that matters. If you want to learn about others, if you want to be in a moment a conscious perceiver, if you want to glean the people who are experiencing life at the same time as you, with you, and around you, that's exactly what it looks like. And it's kudos to him, because I wasn't going to do that. Have I done that before in my life? Yeah, sure. Right? Has anyone done that in their life at some point? Yes. But it's about being reminded just how important our capacity to do that is. I learned things about these two people that would have otherwise been complete bypassers. A simple backdrop of a mosaic, passed by once and seen never again. No connection of any kind. And the connection that comes thereafter, after these conversations, who knows what could come as a result of that? It just so happened that this older gentleman, this young woman, their careers actually intersected. And now her at the beginning of her journey and him near towards the end of his can actually work together. How fascinating is that? How fortunate is that? And the girl had remarked, and I mirrored this with my own, thoughts during the conversation. Nobody does this anymore. That's what she said. Right? Nobody interacts like this anymore. Why? Why don't we? In a society so well connected, so well exposed, so accessible, why don't we just have a conversation? Why don't we just talk? We get so hung up within and on ourselves or comparing ourselves to others that we don't just break the mold and humble ourselves in just conversation with our fellows, right? What it would be like to just be blown in through the tavern doors, like just a couple strangers from who knows where, just to talk. Travelers, because we are travelers. We are blown through the doors of the buildings and places we go by the winds of change and by the winds of fate, right? That is the truth. And we should engage in that. Conversation of that kind is gracious. It is a form of appreciation, right? It is focused and deliberate, and it is an admirable trait. It stands out. This man engaging us in this way, this wouldn't have happened otherwise. And so the most valuable component was that drive, the follow through to extend an olive branch of connection and to talk to other people. We need only more of this. We should feel inspired and invigorated to participate in this manner and detach ourselves from many of the things that confuse us and constrict us. No manner of envy, no systems of self-comparison or, you know, ego will ever deliver something as rich and as substantive in value as a happenstance conversation such as that. That is the very essence of our lives. That is what it means to be alive. That's what it looks like. And so the art of unabashedly engaging with and connecting with other people should be leaned into, should be practiced. We should be coveting that and seeking it out.